All right, thank you first of all for letting me do this. It's not not my forte, and I guess we all need to speak a little bit about who we are so we know each other a little better to start with. So I'll start out with a quick history of my life a little bit, and then go back to some specifics that make a big difference in my life. And overall right now, I'm just going to say and start out with, in 1954, there was the loudest recorded history of the word no. And bada bing, bada boom, my doctor looked down and looked at my mother and said, no, and don't put him back. Just keep him, let the world deal with him. I carried him 9 months. About a year and 14 days later, bada bing, bada boom again. And my sister came and the heavens opened up and the trumpet sounded and my mother said, isn't that beautiful? You know, kind of thing to me. We grew up basically our first few years in the Philippines. Shortly after we were born, we went to the Philippines, and somewhere around 3 is when you start remembering things, or that's my earliest memories I can remember anyways. I grew up in a really awesome place. As far as a kid, I didn't know any different. At 5, I can remember the lady who would pick me up every morning, take me out of the bed. For whatever reasons that day, I just said, why is your skin darker than mine? You don't know any better, that's all you know. For 3 years, you've been picking me up and getting me out of the bed and everything else when I was a baby to whatever. And the lady that was beside her, which was an apprentice maid, literally started crying too and hugging my sister. And we grew up with that being our family for a long time. Saw very little of my dad. He was in the military and going all over the world. Saw my mother every day, of course. She stayed there with us. Saw my first, person in addiction, but don't realize it until way later. My mom was addicted to golf. She would start every day at 9 o'clock and walk across the street and play golf 7 days a week, every day. Didn't know any better, like I said. I was raised by 2 ladies, a maid and an apprentice maid, pretty much, for like 6 years before we came back to the U.S. I was about 10 years old. It was a great life, though. I mean, when I look back at it, this has been awesome for me because it's made me look back at things that had taken place you just forget about. It's not in your everyday thoughts. So it's really brought out a lot of good things for me and some very obvious things for me, too. So I'm going to go through it quick, like I said, and literally go back to some points that I think are very key for me. When we got back to the U.S., you don't know any different when you live on an Air Force base. It's just one way. It's very strict. It's very precise, everything. When you come to the United States, by the time we got to Georgia, where we went to first from Hawaii on to here, literally, I saw kids riding on bicycles, no parents, everything, no badges, no collar saying you could go on the base or not the base, leave the base. It was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh. And I looked at my mom, I can remember this, looked at my mom and said, where's my bicycle? A banana seat and 8 bars. And I was like, where's my bicycle? I'm 10 years old. These kids are younger. I can't believe that I don't have a bicycle. My sister was just like me. We were standing like, I'm sure 2 kids with our mouths wide open, just like, where are we at? I mean, today I'd put it like I'm in Disneyland or something, because I was like, everybody's going everywhere. No parents, no parental guidance, no holding hands. I'm like, whoa, how do you do this? That was the biggest eye-opening that I can remember when I got here. After we moved around about 4 different stations throughout the United States, Alaska for a little while, our short period, I should say, when we went there, back to Virginia, and then we came to Smyrna, which had an Air Force base, Seward Air Force Base. That was halfway between our grandparents. My dad's side in Kentucky, my mom's side in Georgia. So that's where we literally ended up staying right there. Fast forward again, go to school in Smyrna, and by the time I hit say junior high, somewhere in there, I found my, I don't know what you want to call it, but freedom, because I was totally different what you guys think. I didn't talk to anybody. I literally was inside myself, very much to myself. But sports brought it out. I got to play sports. That was definitely my avenue for meeting people and doing things. Because one-on-one, I was terrible. And until you get to that group that you kind of know up close. And that's been a lot of my life, too. Up until college, for sure. In college, I went to a lot of places. MTSU, UT, and graduated in Southern Illinois. And went to Tennessee Tech, too, on top of that even. Like I said, I played sports in everything. I started playing softball when I got out of college. Building apartments for a long time. Played softball from Detroit to Florida if we were lucky enough to get into tournaments to do that. That was my avenue of meeting people outside of my little city that I lived in to start with. Met my wife at that time, or gonna be, I should say, at MTSU at Samsonite Stadium, playing there, or field, softball fields. Wonderful time there. Came walking out of the MTSU girls' dorm, a repeat of Farrell, blonde hair and tight white jeans, and that's all it took, pretty much. Anyways, a year later, we decided we think we want to get married, and her sister, oh no, we think we're going to get married, but we said one of us had to go to college and get out, and then the other one would start. But her younger sister wanted to get married, so we made it a double wedding. So we got married, and 3 days later, we're in school in Southern Illinois. No honeymoon, just go. Let's see. Kids, after we graduate from Southern Illinois and come back here, 2 years out of college, we have our first in 1982, or 1983, and then our second in 1985. 2 great kids. Put them in Belmont daycare kind of thing it was at the time. I can't remember the name of it. Awesome place to put your kids. When they're out of there, they went to Aiken School for about 3 years, and then we put them in Nashville Christian School after that, and was a long bill to pay, but worth every penny of it. I wouldn't do anything different, for sure. So I'll go back to a few things along the way in that part of it. When we were at Aiken School and working downtown Nashville, and I worked for a dental lab, her father, for 11 years, I met a really good guy that asked me to come to a Sunday school class on a Wednesday night one night. So we go home and bake a whole plate of, baked green beans and bring it to the class to find out there were only 4 people in the class. The people who asked us, and then us, which was James Cates at the time. So got to know him for a little bit off and on, and I can't remember how many, maybe another season from there, and he was nice enough to invite me to come duck hunt. Bad mistake on his part. I got hooked on it right away, and it didn't take long. I didn't have any guns or anything. It was just introduced me point blank to everything. By the time we were going home, I kind of asked in a question form so I wouldn't get in trouble, but I was like, I'm coming back, So I asked my wife, could we go back? And she said, yeah, she liked it too. Because me and Connie, Jamie went hunting. She stayed in the cabin. She was not about, shooting any animals for sure, pretty much. And we came back, and that was the last 2 weekends of the season, if I remember it all right too. So it was a kicking weekend for us. Yeah. And I started coming back every year after that. Lisa would come every now and then to start with. And those were rough days. You'd wake up and see your breath in the cabin. It was that cold. There wasn't much heat in that thing. We'd have the heater on and the stove open even just to stay warm in those days. Years went by. I met Dino through Jamie, and we were all going through our own little circumstances at the time, and for long it was me and Dino and Catherine and 4 kids for sure, every other weekend for sure, coming up here. I put 52,000 miles on a Jeep in 1 year just coming here, pretty much. And yet, one of the things about all this is you don't realize the play God's had in your life until either something happens or you stop long enough to look back at it. And it really takes an eye-opener to go see that. And we've all three, as a close kind of family, really looked back and bless and see our blessings like way more than most people would ever stop and look at it. I promise you that. Short time later, I go through a divorce, 11 years later really, go through a divorce, 2 kids, 3 and 5. Wonderful time that you didn't count on. You literally sit there and go, why? And like I know everybody does, and why 11 years later and 2 kids did we change our minds? Looking back, we've found some reasons, myself and Lisa to start with. It takes you a long time to go and find not only forgiveness for the other person, but yourself. Yeah. And I don't think that ever really ends. I think it's a constant for yourself anyways. You have to let go of some things, and I would have never found that or never got there without not only the influence of this family or these 2 families, but God to start with. I was a churchgoer when we got in the United States at the age of 13. I got here at 10, so at 13 I ended up getting baptized. I can remember Brother Smith asking me, why do you want to get baptized? And at that point, I probably couldn't say what I would say today for sure, but I was like, well, if there's something beyond, I think I'll use the word evolution. I can't remember if I did or not. I might have used something else, and he asked me that, and I said, you can't tell me that, and I'm a big nature lover, so you can't tell me all this stuff coexists and just puts everything together, and there's not something. It didn't evolve, because if it had evolved, we'd evolve, and it'd still be evolving. It would change too much. So I couldn't put my finger on what it was, and I told him that I loved Jesus, and he asked me specifically if I was doing it because some friends had done it months before, and I said, nope. Just so you know, I had my thoughts way before they did that. And my sister and I sat and talked about it. And just as soon as I said that, my sister put her hands up, I want to be baptized too, right away. So I did it first, and then she did it right after me. And we walked with the Church of Christ for a long time, thinking that. I went to the Baptist church after that, and literally, when I made that decision, it was because, and it's a compliment to you, John, literally, the pastor has to talk to you. I don't know where I heard it the first time, but it was something I was seeking and didn't even know I was seeking it. But once he spoke, he resonated with me and where I was and where I needed to be, that kind of thing. And the same here, when this church allowed me to be a part of this thing, start with too. I look back at this though, there's no way I did all these things on my own. It was God directing me in some things that you don't think about, you don't even see it. You could go years and never know that it was taking place even to start with. After that, I started really, for some reason, when I went to New Vision in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Brady talked to me really good. I could just, listen to him. It's like you're sitting in a room, it's just, like in a sports game, you block everything out and you're just looking at what's happening. That was it. I could talk to him and he'd be talking to me, kind of thing. But I did know at that age that I was missing something. And I'll say this about this church, it was what I was missing is here. People sing and they sit and do that kind of stuff to start with, just sing, and it's great music, don't get me wrong, good gospel songs, but it's not alive. Yeah. It's not worshiping in my book. I mean, it is. I don't want to say that about somebody in another church, but if you're not alive in it, it's just not working. You just don't know it yet. You just got to find that spirit to work in you, because that's one of the very first things that I loved about this church when I got there. Dino and Jamie can probably attest to all of this. I literally should be dead probably more than 9 times, I guarantee you, out of the things that I've done and survived. I have been motorcycle wrecks that have fallen off mountains, to slammed into bluffs on the lake, to everything you can think about. I mean, I really have had a very fortunate life, and I don't take credit for any of it. That's definitely him, not me, to start with. From, like I said, motorcycle wrecks. I can't even remember what all I've done, but I shouldn't be here, I guarantee you that. And I never take that for granted anymore, and haven't. Falling off the mountain on my house, or they call a mountain a hill. You know, first time Jamie grabbed my leg and started twisting, and I was like, I'm not 9 years old anymore. Quit twisting my leg so hard. I knew I was lucky. I'm very lucky. And when everybody left, I took my boot off and found out it was full of blood. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I'd been bleeding, drove myself to the hospital, and they wanted to give me drugs, and I was like, can't take no drugs, don't do them. So waited for them to finish that and drove myself home. And on the way home, I had my really first experience, and all I could think about was calling Doc and telling him how much I appreciate him, because, you know, I laid on the ground for like 45 minutes or better, trying to find somebody home. Dino was out of town, Jamie was burning wood, and I didn't know it, and Mickey was at the dock. And I was like, okay, I'm in trouble. Nobody's gonna be walking around in March around my house. So God sent Mickey back to me, calling me, and it was lucky it was there to start with. In all of that, I'd like to go back to the biggest two things that really have stood out to me was my divorce, which is heartbreaking to start with. And I want to say this because other people I know have gone through it, and I hope someone sees this and understands. I was very fortunate to, I'm going to say, God talking to me or sit me down for probably a few months before we actually went and started everything. My first thing was, because of my upbringing and my dad being gone, I knew I wanted to make sure my kids were loved. And it's not that my dad didn't love me, but it was his job. It just took him away from me. And I didn't realize that until he retired. And it sounds funny, but it took him a long time to be a dad, to become a dad at his age even, because he didn't have that closeness. I can remember I can count the times my dad said, I love you, on my hand. And I'd only seen him cry twice. And I swore up and down when that happened that I would not, I'll cry because I think men need to, but I will make sure my children know they're loved. That I would do. So sitting with my ex-wife Lisa, we talked, no talking about each other, no, you know, trying to twist our kids towards each other, any of that stuff. It wasn't going to happen. And God was good to us both. He looked after us and made us both in the same heart to let that happen. I know I have two kids that love me to death. There's no way that would change. The other big one I want to say, because I don't think it's talked about, and this stood out, and I have questions about saying it, but I'm going to. I was part of an abortion, and that didn't hit me until way later in life. When I didn't really know about it until then, but when I found out, that was a huge change. It made me go back and look at life. I guess because I wasn't as religious as I would be now and no abortions. That made me think my whole life there forward for sure. Everything about it, any relationships, anything that was going on. It made me really, hit me hard. It made me think about it for sure. That was a eye opener. And I think, I'm not saying this because the ladies are standing here or sitting here. I'm literally saying it because it affects men just the same.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anyways, I think I brought that up at Marcus's thing one time because I think it's huge.
Yeah. Yes.
You're gonna, you know,
Praise God. Thank you, Lord.
Anyways, that was a huge check for me. And then one day coming home with Dino and Catherine from Nashville, we were riding in the station wagon that we had. That was so funny. And Catherine was like jumping out of the roof because I would go to a walk to Emmaus. And I was like, what made you think I wouldn't go? It was just so funny. And when I went, that was a turning point.
Yeah.
A big turning point, yeah. Next big one, I'd say, was the day I got out of a tree, my favorite thing to do. I'm all about hunting or outdoors. In the middle of the morning, prime time for a deer to come, I get down, run home, literally race home. God forbid I would come to work in camo like some people do. I mean, I'm too precise or too whatever particular. So get dressed, come to a church, sit on the back row. I got on a pair of jeans and a sports coat, and here comes Papa Dino to pull me by my ear all the way to the front and sit down with them. You know, that was bad enough that I came in a place I don't know anybody, and I was sitting there going, oh geez, here we go. You know, and he really didn't let go till we got to the front row. And he literally did. So I sit there, and then a couple of weeks ago, I don't come back right away. Got to live that one down. And then a few more weeks, and I was like, okay, I'm supposed to be there. So I get up and come, you know, and I think I went almost a year and a half, 2 years, you know, and then it was there. I mean, John, to your abilities, whatever, I would have loved to know Mr. Green without a doubt. I would have loved to have done that and seen all the stories I heard without a doubt on that. So you spoke to me, though, you really did. I don't even know how to say how. I feel like I'd insult you if I tried to put words to it, but it did. So shortly after, I probably tossed it in and out joining, because joining to me is just like a marriage. It really was that way. You're committed. So coming up there and asking that, and I think I remember you asking me something about what I wanted to say anything, and the only thing I want to say, and I really want to say, I think it's awesome that the whole church comes up and puts hands on you. I cannot express that. I don't see that, never saw that before, in fact, nowhere. But when you asked me that, the only thing that my mind, and it wasn't me, I don't think it was me talking really, to be honest with you. I think it was God talking through me. Grow, but don't change. And that was pretty much all I said. And again, everybody accepted me was huge. And I can't even fathom going somewhere else. Really can't. If I moved, I would truly be broken. And thanks to James and Dino, this is my home. And this church, when I say that. And I wrote that down because I looked back at that and thought, I mean, Jamie, he bugged the heck out of me to buy the land. And I was like, man, I can't afford this with 2 kids. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And I sat on a log probably 3 weekends in a row when we were up here hunting. Same log. I'd go sit on that log and say, God, you got to do something, because I don't see any way of putting 2 kids through Nashville Christian School, expensive as it was, I could afford land. And one day I came up here with my mom. Jamie was off doing a clinic somewhere, and the family was all gone, and I was the only one there, and brought my mom. And when we left, she said, you should build a house up here. And then years later, when I had my mom for 9 years with dementia, I had her the first 3 in my house. I brought her up here one weekend when they were building my house. And I put her to work sweeping, because it was something that would occupy her, and she's a worker. So I put her out there, and when we were leaving one day, she goes, you need to thank Dr. Cates. And I said, okay, what am I thanking him for? He goes, that's a beautiful house he's letting you build here. And I go, I'm going to make sure I'm thanking him. I said, I'm going to make sure I thank him. And so after that, I would take my mom every weekend to the house that I could, that she was well enough to do it, because it really made me feel good, and she loved it. I can remember walking out one time and going to do the blow it off real quick. And as soon as I blew it off, my mom was standing there with that broom in her hand looking at me like, you know, like, where's my purpose? What you just did, what I'm going to do. So letting her do that was her thing. And I thanked God so much. I know it sounds funny, but people who have handicapped children, you can't beat the love between that child and that person, that adult. And when I sit and think about my kids and how much I love them, I cry. But I don't cry because how much I love my kids. It's how much he loves me. And there's no comparison for any of us on that one. So in that, saying that, I got some special people besides yourself, John, Jamie, and Dino, and Catherine. There are people in my life that remain anonymous that I owe so much to, that have taken care of me, that have looked after me and guided me, that there's no way to say that, the list of people. But without those people and my guidance counselor over there, my accountability coach, our first meeting was pretty strange. Me show up at the airport with a red nose on, and she hates clowns. So that was pretty funny to start with. The first thing she told Michael is, keep that man away from me. By the time we were coming back, she was like, now who are you? No. I don't know what I'd do without her keeping me in line, for sure. She's a great lady. But that's basically my life. But I know, I feel guilty when I hear testimonies of a lot of people that they've been through. There's no words to express the gratitude and the grace I've been given. There's just, it's just mercy and giving, looking over me. Because I promise you, and some of the things that I've done, I should be dead. I'm not joking. There's no way you'll convince me otherwise that God was there to start with. Because when I fell off the mountain, I had time to say a few statements like, God, this is really gonna hurt. And I knew it. And I knew I was gonna lay there for a while before I ever got to even move. And I did, and not a bone, nothing other than bleeding in my boot. So you can't tell me, it's written on my wall downstairs in my basement, you can't tell me there's not a God. Just look at me. And I believe that wholeheartedly, as much as I can. And so I thank you all. It's not, and I know I picked out some special people, but literally you all are family. I don't think it any different than that, for sure. Yeah. Love you guys very much.